What's going on, everyone? Alan here, aka the Bird Bay, and in this video I wanted to talk about what's a good first starter parrot. I get a lot of people asking me on my YouTube channel and also asking me on Instagram, Alan, I want to get a parrot, but I don't know which one. I've been looking at Senegals and different type of parrots, but I'm just not sure which one to get. And this is a great question, and it's important to do your research before you purchase any type of parrot. But before we dive into what parrots I would recommend as a good starter bird, let's first discuss what goes into owning a parrot, because it is not as simple as having a cat where you just feed it, it poops in a little box and it kind of hangs out by itself and you can let them be for a whole weekend and the cat's not really going to have a problem. Parrots are totally different. They're even different than dogs. So first things first, let's talk about some requirements. First of all, you are going to need a decent sized cage for your parrot. Ideally, you're going to want a cage that is going to be spacious enough for the bird to be able to flap around freely, but also good enough for the parrot to be able to have toys, to be able to be in there and, you know, still feel happy when it's inside of its cage. And depending on what type of parrot you get and the size cage you get, it's gonna run you a couple $100s just to get the cage before you even get the parrot, right? So that's gonna be super important. After that, the other thing to consider, you're gonna want to, make sure that you give your parrot at least 2 hours a day outside of its cage. A lot of people work, they don't work from home like I do, so, their parrot's not out most of the day. Most people, they go to that 9-to-5 job or they're going to school, and they have to make sure that their parrot gets enough time outside of the cage so that it can exercise, so that it can, spread its wings out, so it can interact with you, play with its toys. Parrots aren't meant to be in cages. You have to make sure that you give them enough time outside of the cage. If you can't give your parrot outside of cage time at least 2 hours, you can't really interact with it, you can't really socialize it, then maybe getting a parrot isn't going to be the best idea for you, and that's okay. But it's better to know this in advance than to go get a parrot and then rehome the poor little guy or little girl and make it go through different owners, and we don't want that to happen, right? Next, you're also going to need a lot of toys. Parrots love to destroy things. It's what they do. That's why they got a big old strong beak. They love to chew things. They love to destroy things. If you don't give them enough toys, it's also going to impact their mental health, their psychology. Parrots like to forage. They like to destroy things. They like to break things up. If you have furniture and you let them around the furniture, there's a high probability that your parrot's going to want to chew on it. My parrot Elfie likes to chew on my earrings, my shirt, so I just make sure he has a lot of toys on a daily basis so that he can, trim his beak and play with other things and minimize the destruction of other things, but it's not guaranteed, right? The next thing, you're going to have to make sure that you invest into, weekly or monthly parrot care. It's going to be things like cleaning out its cage on a, twice a week minimum basis. You're going to have to trim its nails. Because if parrots have their nails too long, they end up getting caught in stuff. They can rip out their nails. It's not good, and it also hurts when you pick them up if their nails are trimmed. So you're gonna have to take them to go get their nails trimmed, or you're gonna learn how to do it yourself, which is what I do with Elfie. And really from there, you're going to want to make sure that you have, you're giving your parrot the proper diet on a twice a day basis. If you're going to be training it, you can't just give them a bunch of different sunflower seed mix. It's high in fat. They need a variety of nutrients. The best case scenario would be to give them a well-balanced pellet diet in addition to, veggies and, minimal fruit for training, or, nuts and seeds when you're training your parrot. But they need a decent nutrition in order for them to have good behavior, for them to be in good health. And it's just going to be a win-win when you make sure that your parrot is well taken care of as well. From there on to the next part. You're basically going to be a problem-solving specialist when it comes to your parrot's behavior and issues that come up. There are some things that come up with Alfie, I'm not sure, like what's going on here. We have to problem solve. We have to understand where this behavior is rooted in, and a lot of times we don't know it, but we are the cause of parrots' behaviors, the good behaviors and the bad behaviors. Give an example. Today, out of nowhere, I put toys in Alfie's bowl, and he started getting aggressive and started attacking his toys like crazy, and then he just had this aggressive vibe to him the whole day for no reason. I would look look at him after he was attacking his toys, and then he would run over at me and try to get aggressive with me. So I just learned to ignore it, and then it went away. These things are going to come up. You're going to have to be good at problem solving with your parrot. You're going to also have to make sure that you are interacting with your parrot on a consistent and frequent basis. You know, it's not just enough to have your parrot in the cage and, you know, let them be throughout the whole day. That's how birds start plucking out their feathers, behavioral issues, they start acting all weird. They're not meant to be in cages, so we try to minimize that as much as possible. And even when you let them out, you can't just let them out and go hang out on that stand, I'll see you later. You have to interact with him. Like Alfie he ate today earlier and he's still chirping because he wants attention. I've taught him to chirp instead of yell, which was a mission in itself. I finally was able to learn how to bring down his yelling. After almost like a year of having him, I had to really work with him, and now I know. And this is part of the reason why when you get a starter bird, you want to make sure that it's not going to be a bird that's going to seriously hurt you, or an excessively loud bird, or a bird that's going to be prone to behavioral issues or self-destructive issues, so that you have a little bit of that learning curve available for yourself. The next thing. Birds are loud. It is what they do. You can minimize it as much as possible, but even Alfie has his breaking points. If he's chirping and he's hungry and late for his dinner time and he's chirping long enough, eventually he's gonna crack and he's gonna start yelling. It's part of what birds do. We obviously want to minimize it as much as possible, and yes, you can teach your bird to not screech and yell, but it's going to happen still. Is your family or your significant other or your relatives, whoever you live with, roommates, are they going to be okay with the parrot yelling on occasion? These are things to consider as well. Another thing that is also going to be dependent on the parrot species. Some parrots tend to be louder than others. Believe it or not, just because they're smaller doesn't mean they're not going to be as loud. Sun conures are known for being excessively loud. Like they have this like crazy screech that you can basically, it pierces your ears and it makes you want to pull your hair out. Macaws, cockatoos, exact same thing. They can be extremely loud and demanding for attention. So those aren't some that I recommend as starter birds. You're basically going to have to invest in training and taming your parrot. If you want to show it tricks, you have to work with it. If you want it to have better behavior, you have to set aside 15 to 20 minutes a day, ideally 4 to 5 days a week, so that you can have that focus time and train your parrot on good behavior. You're going to want to socialize your parrot to make sure that it's not just bonded to you, and if anybody else interacts with it or picks it up, it doesn't want to rip their finger off or attacks people. We obviously don't want that. We can train birds to interact with multiple people and have positive reactions and positive reinforcement with other people's, but there are still species that are going to be more prone to not being a one-person bird or bonded excessively to one person. So this is going to be important in your decision when figuring out what bird you want to start with. And really part of the reason why I chose my little guy Alfie is because the species, the Poicephalus, is one of the quieter birds. They're great for apartments. They're a great starter bird. And this segues me into my actual recommendations here for my top 3, my top 4 starter birds. So one of the bird species that I recommend the most out of all of them, you're probably going to guess it. I might be a little bit biased, but I also did my research. It's going to be these guys. Poicephalus parrots, that include Senegal parrots, which are the most popular ones. You have Jardine's parrots that almost look identical, but they have like a little red front on top of their head, and they tend to be green and black. They're a little bit bigger than Alfie. They can be good talkers, but these guys, the whole family of this species of bird has very similar characteristics. You have the Jardine's parrot, the Senegal parrot, the red-bellied parrot. There's the Myers parrot, who looks like Alfie, just a little bit smaller and with blue. All those types of birds are great starter birds to begin with because they're going to give you a little bit of that wiggle room to make those mistakes. They're going to be a little bit more prone to want to get along with everybody else in the family. They're going to tend to be on the quieter side. They're still playful. They're still fun. Just because it's not a big, beautiful blue and gold macaw that is amazing to look at and just like, wow, doesn't mean that you can't go with some of these smaller guys. Not to mention, they have smaller beaks. There's only 2 types of bird owners, those who have been bit and those who will get bit. And I've been both of them, and it hurts, but Alfie no longer bites me now because he knows that's not good. That's naughty bird stuff. Poicephalus parrot family, check it out. I recommend you check out the Poicephalus family, and all those birds are included. You're basically going to be fair game with all those guys as well. The next bird that I recommend would be kikes. They're some of the most popular birds. Ladies love kikes. My girlfriend is considering getting a kike. Every time she sees one, she's like, babe, I want one. I'm like, do you want a kike or do you want a dog? And she's like, oh, no, I want a dog. I'm like, okay, then, you see what I go through with Elfie. Let's get you a dog, and I'll take care of the parrot stuff. But kikes, super playful. They're probably going to be the most playful, fun, outgoing parrot you can possibly have, because you literally just put them down, give them a bottle cap, put them on the desk, and they will entertain themselves. They'll make fun out of any situation they're in. They're really fun birds, and that's part of the reason why, whenever they have them at bird stores or breeders, they go super fast and they can cost almost as much as a macaw, because they're such desired birds and they're desired for a reason. So the kike's going to be about the same size as Elfie. They're just going to be, I think, yellow with white, a little peach, sometimes black on the forehead. Super outgoing, energetic personality, but you also want to do your research. If you can handle the non-stop ADD, boom, 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 which is basically them all day, every day. They don't have a stop button until they go to sleep. If that's you and you want that type of bird, check that bird out. Another bird that's the most common parrot, I think, and bird in the U.S. to own is the cockatiel. And cockatiels are awesome. They basically look like ginormous cockatoos with the little thing that pops up on top of their head. They tend to be gray with little yellow or red cheeks. They're popular for a reason. They're really good whistlers. They can learn to talk. They're smaller in size. They're also very entertaining, can be very loving, affectionate, great, parrot to check out. For your first bird. Just because they're smaller doesn't mean you can't have fun with them, doesn't mean you can't harness train them, show them tricks. That's not true. All parrots are super intelligent. It's just a matter of personal preference, and in this video talking about that starter bird. The next parrot that I would recommend and that I would see as popular is a sun conure, a little bit smaller in size. They're beautiful. I will say this though, conures tend to be on the louder side. Just because they're small don't mean they ain't loud. They tend to be chirping, making noise all day. So if you're not in an apartment and you're okay with, consistent noise, whistling here and there, the occasional screech, chattering, then check out the conures, and there's a bunch of them. You're gonna have the Genidae, you're gonna have the pineapple. There's like so many green cheek conures that you can check out. So I would suggest you do your research. Those are some of the birds that I recommend as starter birds. The birds I would probably avoid altogether as your first bird would be macaws. They're loud, excessively loud. Like when they yell at the top of their lungs, you can hear them a mile away. Cockatoos are the most demanding parrot that I've ever seen. They're consistently demanding attention. They're a lot of fun though. When I say these things doesn't mean they don't make great birds. You just have to know how to work with them, what you're doing when you're working with these type of parrots, because they require more attention. Macaws, African greys is another great parrot. They have a great talking ability. I think they're the most talkative parrot on the planet, like in terms of most different words they've ever learned in terms of intelligence and ability to mimic and speak. I would also avoid Amazons. They tend to be really popular, but again, they're great talkers. They can be prone to be one-person birds. I would probably avoid those guys as your first parrot. Once you have your own smaller parrot, starter bird, so to speak, for about 2, maybe 3 years, and you want to add another bird to the flock, then I would consider looking into it. But that's basically it for my recommendation on some good starter birds to go with. Make sure that you check out the channel, subscribe, make sure that you check out the Alfie and Bird Bay Instagram in the description section below. We also have a Facebook community link down there, so you can join our Facebook group and just interact with other bird owners. Doesn't matter if you're planning on getting a bird or you already have one. We're just there to support each other, answer each other's questions as a community. And lastly, I want to know, what type of video do you want me to cover next on parrot training, tips, care, behavior, tricks, whatever, right? Drop it in the comments section, and I look forward to hearing more about that. And this is Alan, aka the Bird Bay, and Alfie over here signing out for today. We will see you guys next time.